All right, let's jump into another deep dive.
Sounds good.
This time, we're looking at some resources you sent over, all about platform migration, and wow, it's a lot.
It is. There's so much to unpack.
Yeah, so it all comes from Bert Blevins, his Migrate to the Platform website, blog posts, videos.
He really knows his stuff.
He does. I mean, just-in-time permissions, Delinea, even some kind of, I don't know, spooky cloud security threats I'd never really considered before.
Yeah, he gets into some fascinating corners of the whole platform migration world.
For sure. And how it all ties back to cybersecurity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't really separate those anymore, can you?
Not really, no. But before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should take a step back.
Okay, sure.
When we say platform migration nowadays, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, it's really a business strategy.
Okay.
Companies use it to try and get more efficient, make things more scalable.
So they can compete better, basically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be bringing in brand new software, it could be upgrading the stuff they've already got, or it could even be like jumping fully into the cloud.
It's like recognizing that what worked a couple of years ago just doesn't cut it anymore.
Exactly. And there are some pretty big advantages to making that shift,
I bet. Like what?
Well, you get access to the newest technology, right? You can streamline a lot of processes
Yeah.
and get in line with whatever the current industry standards are.
Oh.
It's
Right.
really all about being more flexible, so you can innovate faster and keep up.
Makes a lot of sense. And speaking of innovating, there was one thing in Bert's stuff that really grabbed my attention. Just-in-time permissions. JIT, he calls it.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like a game changer for security, doesn't it?
It really does. Bert actually claims that JIT can shrink a system's attack surface by like 90%.
90%.
By only allowing access exactly when you absolutely need it.
So it's like a key that only works at a certain time, right?
Precisely. Much less time to be vulnerable.
I was reading about Delinea, their unlimited admin mode.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds pretty amazing, but
Yeah?
doesn't that go against the whole least privilege thing Bert talks about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Bert does mention that, kind of a contradiction.
Right.
But he says Delinea's approach is more subtle than the name suggests.
Okay.
It's really about, giving those admins the power they need, but keeping everything tightly controlled and always monitored.
So they have flexibility, but safely.
Right, exactly. Like imagine a safety harness for someone walking a tightrope.
Oh, okay, I see.
Freedom to move, but with a safety net.
I get it. Makes me feel better about that whole thing.
Good.
So let's change gears a bit, talk about something a little more familiar.
Sure.
Password rotation, specifically in Red Hat Linux.
Yeah.
Might seem kind of basic, but Bert makes a really good point about how important it still is, especially for those really important accounts in a Linux environment.
Right.
Regularly switching up your passwords.
So much harder for the bad guys to get in.
Like changing the locks on your house.
Exactly.
But now, this is where things get kind of weird. Bert gets into some really unexpected cloud security threats.
Oh, yeah, some scary stuff.
What was the one that really stood out to you?
Honestly, the whole enumerating cloud services thing.
Right?
It's kind of creepy,
Yeah, how attackers basically case the joint.
Yeah, they scope out your whole cloud environment.
And then use that to plan more attacks.
Exactly. Like creating a map of all your weaknesses.
It's like a heist movie, those super detailed plans they make.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, how do we even begin to protect ourselves from that?
Well, that's where cloud identity discovery comes in.
Okay.
And Bert makes it very clear, this isn't just a one-time check,
Yeah.
It's got to be ongoing, especially when you're migrating platforms.
And this is where all of Bert's expertise with identity management really shines, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. He's all about that constant monitoring, and he lays out some really specific tools and strategies to do it well.
Oh, wow.
He even talks about using automation to make it all more manageable.
We're just scratching the surface here, and I feel like I'm learning so much already.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
It really makes you realize just how connected platform migration and cybersecurity are these days.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. And Bert does a fantastic job of showing us exactly how.
Speaking of Bert, his credentials are really impressive.
Right.
I mean, it's not just some guy with a website,
No, not at all.
He's a certified cyber insurance specialist, experience with collaboration, security, even private blockchain stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's got the whole package.
And it really shows in his work,
Yeah.
how he understands information architecture, cybersecurity frameworks.
He sees the big picture, But he can also get into the technical details when he needs to.
Which is crucial, right, when you're dealing with something that's complicated as cloud security.
No doubt about it.
Okay, let's take a breath for a second, recap what we've got so far.
Right.
We know that platform migration is about way more than just upgrading your systems.
Right.
It's strategic, it's about how agile your business can be, how it can innovate.
It's about the future, really.
And we've seen how cybersecurity is a part of every single step of that process.
Absolutely.
We've talked about just-in-time permissions, Delenia, and how important cloud identity discovery is, especially with these weird new threats like that cloud service enumeration thing.
It's a lot to digest.
It really is, but I think I'm starting to get a handle on it all.
Kind of good.
Now I'm really curious to see how this all plays out in the real world.
Well, let's dive into some real-world scenarios then.
All right, let's do it.
And see how Bert's insights can help us navigate all this complexity.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so we've got the basics down.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to get, a little more practical.
Right.
Let's say a company is actually doing this right. They're moving their whole setup from their, trusty old on-premise servers to this brand new cloud platform.
Big move.
Huge move. What are some of the, biggest security things they've got to be thinking about?
Well, one of the first things Bert really hammers on is understanding that shared responsibility model in the cloud.
Okay.
A lot of people, they just assume, I'm moving to the cloud, security's taken care of.
Right.
That's not really how it works.
Wait, so the cloud provider, they're not responsible for keeping my data safe?
It's not that simple.
Okay.
The providers like AWS, Azure, whoever, they handle security for the basic infrastructure.
The physical servers, the networks.
Exactly.
But I'm responsible for my own stuff within their system.
Precisely. Your data, your applications.
So it's more like a partnership.
Yeah, but that's a good way to put it.
They provide the fortress. I got to make sure it's actually locked up.
And guarded, yeah.
Right, the guards are at their posts.
Which means you have to take your existing security policies and make sure they work in this new cloud environment.
So access controls, encryption, all that.
All of that. And this is where those tools we talked about, like Delenia, can really shine.
I'm still not quite clear on how Delenia fits into, a migration like this.
Okay, so imagine, right, you're moving all your most valuable stuff, your sensitive data, system configs, the crown jewels, up to this new cloud platform.
Right.
And you're going to need to give some people temporary access, higher level permissions to do that.
Okay.
Delenia acts like this secure control center for those credentials.
Oh.
Make sure only the right people have the right access the right time.
So if something goes wrong, there's less potential damage.
Exactly.
It's interesting Bert talks about this in terms of controlling the blast radius.
Yeah.
Almost like he's thinking of security as damage control.
He is.
Yeah.
He actually says it's not just about preventing breaches altogether.
Right.
Though obviously that's the goal.
Of course.
But it's also about if a breach does happen, how do you limit the damage?
Right. Contain it.
Delenia helps you compartmentalize everything.
Okay.
So even if someone gets hold of one credential, they can't take down your whole system.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes me think about the people involved,
Oh, yeah, the human factor.
You're moving to a new platform. You've got to train everyone on new systems, new processes.
Right, completely new ways of working.
How does that play into the whole cybersecurity thing?
It's huge. Bert's a big believer in security awareness training.
Okay.
Especially during these big tech shifts, you're introducing all these new ways for things to go wrong, new vulnerabilities.
Oh, right.
People need to know about the risks, how to spot phishing attempts, how to manage their passwords properly.
So it's like you're building a human firewall alongside your technical ones.
That's a great way to put it. An informed workforce, they're your first line of defense.
I like that.
And it's not just about telling people what not to do. It's about giving them the knowledge to make smart decisions, be proactive about security.
Building that whole security culture.
Exactly.
Everyone knows they have a part to play in protecting information.
It's a team effort.
This reminds me of a migration I went through a while back.
Oh, yeah.
We were so focused on the tech, getting it all working right. We almost forgot about the people actually using it.
Easy to do.
Luckily, we had someone on the team. They were really passionate about security.
Oh, good.
They helped us avoid some major problems.
Glad to hear it.
But, okay, let's get back to the cloud for a minute.
Sure.
We talked about cloud identity discovery before, and it seems like something Bert really emphasizes, especially during a migration.
He does. It's crucial.
Why is it so important?
Well, think about it. When you move to the cloud, you suddenly inherit this huge, complex web of users, roles, permissions.
Right.
It can be overwhelming, especially coming from a more traditional setup.
Like drinking from a fire hose?
Yeah, exactly. Cloud identity discovery is about gaining visibility into all of that.
So you can see who has access to what.
Precisely. And spot those potential security gaps before they turn into real problems.
It's like inheriting a giant mansion with a million keys, but no map, right?
That's a great analogy.
You have no idea what each key unlocks or who's allowed to use it.
You need that map. You need to figure it out.
And Bert's saying that's what cloud identity discovery does.
Exactly. And he points out during a migration, you're bringing in all these new systems, applications, third-party integration.
Right.
You got to make sure all that stuff fits into your security framework,
That you understand all those permissions and controls.
Exactly. No loose ends.
What really struck me was Bert doesn't see this as a one-time thing.
No, not at all.
He's talking about continuous monitoring, especially while you're migrating.
Right.
He even suggests specific tools and strategies to make it all more manageable.
He does. What are some of the things he recommends?
Well, he really gets into the nitty-gritty, talking about identifying all your cloud assets, mapping out those user accounts and permissions, analyzing activity logs for any red flags.
Yeah, being thorough.
He loves automation, using tools to streamline everything and make sure you're constantly monitoring.
Smart approach.
It seems like he's advocating for this really proactive way of thinking about security.
Yeah, not just waiting for something bad to happen.
Right, getting ahead of it.
Exactly. But it's not all about fancy tools and automation, is it?
No, I guess not.
You still need to make sure your employees understand the importance of strong passwords, recognizing phishing attempts, reporting anything suspicious.
So they can be part of the solution.
Right. It all comes back to building that security culture we talked about.
Okay, we've covered a lot here. The shared responsibility model, how tools like Delinea can help, employee training, that continuous cloud identity discovery.
That's a lot, yeah.
I'm starting to see how it all fits together, but it's still pretty complex,
It is. There's no denying that.
Yeah. What are some of the key takeaways here? For businesses trying to navigate this whole world of platform migration and cybersecurity.
Well, I think one of the most important things Bert emphasizes is this. Platform migration and cybersecurity, they're inseparable.
They're two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. You can't have one without the other these days.
So it's not just about moving to the cloud, it's about doing it in a way that actually makes you more secure.
That's the goal, absolutely.
You're using this powerful technology, but you understand the risks and you're mitigating them.
You're building a secure, resilient foundation for your business so it can thrive in this digital world.
Okay, yeah, I like that. But it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
No, not at all. There are real opportunities here.
Right.
Platform migration can unlock incredible potential for businesses. More agility, more innovation, you can compete better.
But to get those benefits, you got to have that security first mindset.
That's crucial. And that's where Bert's insights are so valuable.
He's giving us a roadmap, a framework for how to think about all of this.
And he doesn't just tell you what to do.
Why?
He helps you understand why it matters, and he gives you those tools and strategies to actually make it happen.
One thing that keeps sticking with me, it's that idea of cloud service enumeration.
Oh yeah, spooky stuff.
How those attackers are basically mapping out all our vulnerabilities.
Before they even strike.
Yeah, it made me realize how vulnerable we might be without even knowing it.
It's a sobering thought.
It's kind of unsettling, to be honest.
It is, but it also highlights why being proactive is so important.
Not waiting for something bad to happen.
Exactly. Cloud identity discovery, continuous monitoring, security awareness training.
All those things help you get ahead of the curve.
Make yourself a less appealing target.
So it's not just reacting, it's anticipating, preparing for those threats.
You got to shift from that reactive mindset to a proactive one.
And that's where Bert's work can make a real difference.
It can be a game changer.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today.
We have a lot to digest.
Before we wrap things up entirely, I want to leave them with one final question.
Okay.
Given everything we've discussed, what steps can you take, starting right now, to uncover those hidden risks in your own cloud environment?
And how can you start mitigating those risks proactively?
It's about taking ownership of your own security, isn't it?
It is. And realizing that security is a journey, not a destination.
Right. The threats are always changing, so you have to adapt.
Always evolving, always improving your defenses.
Bert's work is a great starting point,
A solid foundation.
but it's up to each of us to take that knowledge and actually use it.
To put it into practice in our own organizations.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. I've learned a ton.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time.
It's funny, we always talk about security like it's this big abstract thing.
Right.
But when you put it like Bert does, controlling the blast radius, it suddenly feels, I don't know, more real, more actionable.
I think that's one of his real strengths, yeah.
He takes these super complicated topics
Right.
and he makes them, like, understandable.
Inevitable.
He's not just throwing around jargon, he's explaining the why, you know?
It's not just the what. It's the why behind it.
And that's what makes it so useful, especially if you're a business and you're just like overwhelmed by all this platform migration, cybersecurity stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to get lost.
So easy to get lost in the details, but he helps you see the bigger picture.
That's a good way to put it.
He's like that guide in a dense forest.
Yeah, I like that.
He knows the shortcuts, the dangerous parts, the best way to get where you're going safely.
Keeps you on track.
Okay, so let's say I'm a business leader and I'm convinced
Okay.
platform migration, cybersecurity, I gotta take this seriously. Where do I even begin?
Well, Bert lays out a pretty practical approach.
Okay.
He says, start by looking at what you've already got. Your infrastructure, your apps, your data, your security.
Like taking inventory before you move.
Exactly. You got to know what you have, what needs protecting.
Makes sense. But what then? It still seems overwhelming.
Once you've got that clear picture, then Bert says, you make a plan,
Okay.
a migration strategy, a roadmap,
With timelines, milestones, all that.
all of that. Yeah. Who's responsible for what?
And he says it's really important to involve everyone.
Not just the IT guys.
Right, business leaders, even the people who are going to be using the systems.
It's a team effort, for sure.
So communication is key.
Absolutely. Keep everyone informed, get their feedback, address any concerns.
Because a successful migration needs everyone on board.
Buy-in from all sides.
And I'm guessing cybersecurity has to be part of every step of that plan, right?
Oh, 100%. That's one of Bert's big points.
Okay.
Security can't be something you tack on at the end.
You can't just forget about it.
It has to be built in from the beginning.
From the planning stage to the actual move to after you're all settled in.
Exactly. He talks about strong access controls, encrypting data, having clear procedures for when things go wrong.
So you're prepared if there's an incident.
Always be prepared. It's about being proactive, not just reacting.
So it's not just about securing the new platform, it's about securing the whole journey.
The whole process, yeah.
Making sure you don't, I don't know, leave any valuables behind.
Or expose yourself to unnecessary risks along the way.
Right. And all those tools and strategies we talked about, they come in here, right?
They do. Just-in-time permissions, Delinea, cloud identity discovery.
All playing a part in keeping things smooth and secure.
Smoothing out the bumps.
But it's not just about the tech, is it? We keep coming back to the human element.
We do, because it's always a factor.
Bert's really big on that security awareness training, right?
Yeah, he hammers that point home.
Making sure employees are up to date on all the threats, how to spot those phishing scams, good password practices.
All the basics, but so important.
It's about giving them the knowledge to be part of the solution,
Not a potential problem.
turning them into assets.
Exactly.
What I find interesting is Bert seems to acknowledge that breaches, they happen.
They do,
It's not about making some perfect, impenetrable system.
Right.
It's about being realistic, knowing that something might go wrong.
And being ready for it.
Which is where that whole controlling the blast radius thing comes in.
It's about minimizing the damage, containing the impact.
It's a much more practical way to think about it.
More grounded in reality.
So, to sum it all up, it's about being proactive, having a plan, and making sure your people are on board.
That's a great way to put it.
Taking ownership of your security, knowing it's an ongoing thing.
A journey, not a destination.
The threats change, so you gotta change too.
Adapt, evolve, always be learning.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
We have a lot of information to digest.
We've looked at platform migration, cybersecurity, and hopefully shared some of Bert Blevins' wisdom.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
He really is, and hopefully our listeners are feeling inspired,
Inspired to take action.
to be more proactive about their own security, to check out Bert's work.
He's got a lot of great resources out there.
He does. I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
It is, yeah.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Until next time.